From the ugly crawling doll to the little laboratory with real uranium, here are the most dangerous toys that should never be given to children. Let's get started. You must have played little soldiers in your childhood, like most of us. Until the late 1960s, these little figurines were made of lead, a toxic and carcinogenic metal, before being made of plastic. You must be thinking that this is a blatant crime against children, right? How could children's toys be made with hazardous materials? You haven't seen anything yet, because in 1938, an American company called A.C. Gilbert Company even sold lead soldiers to assemble yourself at home. Imagine that the children not only had to handle a metal that was harmful to their health, but also had to melt it at a temperature of over 300 degrees C. If you think that many children must have burned their fingers doing this dangerous manipulation, you are right. Fortunately, with the development of metallurgical science, the harmfulness of lead has been demonstrated and toy manufacturers have replaced it with plastic, which is less dangerous and much more economical. So you can have fun waging war as much as you want with your little plastic soldiers without any casualties now. You've had more than enough of the little chemist offered by your old aunt. You want to switch to a more interesting kit? No problem. Here is the Atomic Energy Lab U-238, a kit for budding nuclear physicists who would like to follow the path of Pierre and Marie Curie. You will find in this kit the necessary equipment to unravel the mysteries of radioactivity and transform your room into a real laboratory. In addition to a Geiger counter and an electroscope, the kit also contains 4 slightly radioactive uranium ores, which are nevertheless a real long-term health hazard. Marketed in the early 1950s, only 5,000 copies were produced of the Atomic Energy Lab U-238. Fortunately, because you can imagine the havoc that hundreds of thousands of these games would produce. If you still want to put on your physics apron, you can do so, but once you are a college student, with qualified researchers and excellent safeguards. You know very well that radioactivity is no child's play. A little aside, if you like this video, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all the notifications. Let's continue. If you're worried about hurting yourself with darts, lawn darts may be your worst nightmare. This outdoor game is literally made up of giant darts that must be thrown in the air so that they land as close to or inside the target as possible. To win, you have to throw darts that are nearly a foot long with a sharp metal tip and hope you hit the mark. If not, the giant dart can land in the wrong place and cause serious injury or death. Don't think that this happens only very rarely, because during the golden age of this dangerous toy, there have been many accidents. But if you still want to try your hand at darts, just to test your shooting skills, we recommend the suction cup models, which are totally harmless. If you like to play dangerous games, you will certainly not be impressed by aqua dots. They are small colored plastic beads, whose volume increases when they are sprayed with water, allowing to create patterns and 3D designs. Nothing to worry about, right? Such a toy should not be in this ranking of the most dangerous toys. Think again, because the danger of aqua dots is far less harmless than it seems. This toy was the subject of a multinational product recall in 2007 due to poisoning risks. The Chinese factory that manufactured aqua dots used a chemical with sedative properties in the glue used to bind the beads. By ingesting them, the children ran the risk of falling into a coma or even dying. But more fear than harm, the bead manufacturer has introduced new materials that are safer for children and the environment. So you can have fun with your little iridescent beads, or if you prefer, do like this YouTuber who filled a pool with billions of aqua dots. You remember the Sky Dancers, those cute little flying dolls developed by Mattel in the early 1990s. They were like something out of a fairy tale. They could fly away when you pulled on a wire at their base. The Sky Dancers worked on the same principle as the helicopter, whose blades are activated by friction. By pulling on the small cord, the mechanism activated the wings of the dolls, which flew, twirling on themselves in a fabulous ballet. As you learned in physics class, everything that goes up eventually comes down. And as far as the Sky Dancers dolls are concerned, we can tell you that the fall was very hard, both literally and figuratively. Because if these pretty little fairies with ballerina looks fly very high in the sky by offering an effect of the most splendid, they are much less graceful when they land. You guessed it. The Sky Dancers often ended up crashing on furniture, or worse, on the poor children who played with them. These hard plastic dolls, which could reach 20 centimeters, could cause serious injuries. When it comes to dangerous or risky toys, the last thing you might think of is the mechanics game. This iconic magnetic construction set had its heyday in the early 2000s, becoming one of the best-selling and most sought-after toys in 2005. The principle of the game was simple. You have a combination of plastic construction pieces embedded with magnets and steel balls, which you must connect together to assemble geometric shapes and structures. The extreme simplicity of the game, combined with the incredible diversity of the pieces and patterns that can be made, has allowed mechanics to become the undisputed leader in magnetic construction games. You are probably wondering what makes this original toy so dangerous. Indeed, what could be more harmless than a construction set for children, and moreover, made of malleable and recyclable plastic? The answer lies in the magnets, because they had a tendency to fall out of the plastic. And since children have this habit of putting everything they find in their mouths, the risk of ingestion was obvious. You may say that it is not so dangerous to swallow a small magnet, because our stomach is strong enough to digest it, or at worst, to expel it. You're not wrong, but the tricky part is when you ingest more than one magnet. What will happen is that the magnets will attract each other, causing the intestinal wall to perforate. Still, think this toy is safe? You've always dreamed of playing war with real animated green soldiers, just like in the excellent animated movie, Small Soldiers, released in 1998. In this CGI movie Nugget, Special Forces commando figures engage in a real battle against their toy enemies, the Gorgonites. As you grew up, you threw that unattainable dream away. However, some people continue to cling to this hope of being able to wage war with their little toys. To please them, but also for profit, some toy factories have started to manufacture replica guns used in real wars. This is the Remco Johnny Reb cannon, a miniature reproduction of a terrible artillery piece that wreaked havoc during the Civil War. You're probably wondering why a 1/50th scale replica of an old American field gun would be classified as a dangerous toy. The answer to this question is very simple, since if it is a replica that works and can even shoot real projectiles. You heard me right. Once the Remco Johnny Reb is fired, it is capable of sending miniature cannonballs over 10 meters away. Projectiles that, despite their small size, are still capable of causing big damage. If you like to play war, we advise you to stick to the good old plastic toys and leave the artillery for the real military. You suffer from pediophobia. A tip: scroll down the video a few minutes, because this part could increase your dislike for these toys. You have been warned. But if you're still here, it's because you're not afraid of the cold. We present you the ugly crawling doll, the nightmare of the children of the 19th century. Look at this mechanical monster that looks like a cross between a doll, a turtle, and a barbaric gear system. This monstrosity was sold to parents who had no idea that this toy would be the source of their nightmares. Imagine yourself in the shoes of a sweet little 6-year-old girl, sleeping alone in her room. And suddenly, a vision of horror, this thing slowly crawling towards you with a filthy smile on its wax face. Be reassured, this doll is obviously not commercialized since a century, and you have practically no chance to cross its path, unless you go to the National Museum of American History and get lost in the dolls and figurines section. Now that you've seen what the children had to endure in his presence, you'll look at the pretty Barbies on display at the toy store with a little less fear, right? Have you ever seen a spring-loaded devil in a toy store, or in the bedroom of one of your childhood friends? Maybe you've even owned one, and had a lot of fun with it. But do you really know the origins of this little toy that seems harmless at first glance? Do you know the dark and sinister history of this extremely popular toy for young children? Hold on to your seats, because the truth may shock you. What you might think is a surprise box, usually causing laughter and general amusement, would in fact have demonic origins. The figure mounted on the spring would be a kind of demon, hence the name given to it since its creation around the 13th century, Demon in the Box. If you don't believe too much in demonic tales and other superstitions, maybe you'd be more tuned into this other theory attributed to this toy in the US. In American pop culture, the spring-loaded devil is known as the Jack in the Box. But what you may not know is that the Jack in question was in fact a black slave who had escaped from the plantations and was found and locked alive in a box. So, do you still see this innocent toy the same way? Let us know in the comments. And as always, we left the best for last. Because of all the most dangerous and scary toys in the world, this is the most terrible. We present you the most terrifying doll that has ever been commercialized, and take our word for it, this is truly a toy that should never be put in the hands of a child. This doll was called the Snacktime Kid Cabbage Patch Doll. And to tell you the truth, under this barbaric name, was hidden an object which was just as much. Unlike all the dolls in the world, this one has a voracious appetite and can gobble up anything that comes near her mouth. This terrifying doll had a motorized mouth, so you could feed it with plastic food that would end up in its backpack. But since there was no mechanism to start or stop this action, the hungry doll could gobble up anything, like children's little fingers, or worse, their little tufts of hair. We let you imagine the fear of these poor little ones, who saw their dear little dolls start to devour them. Fortunately, the manufacturers had this terrible doll removed from sale, and even recalled the ones that were already in circulation. If you think that this ugly doll is much more dangerous than Annabelle or Chucky combined, you are right. Because unlike them, the Snacktime Kid Cabbage Patch doll can eat you. And that's it for today. Which of these 10 scary toys impressed you the most? Tell us in the comments. We'll see you soon for new discoveries.